Hey everyone, thank you for joining me for another video. Now, I'm going to do my best to not ramble and rant around in this video, but bear with me if my thoughts kind of start crossing streams, more or less. But I do want to talk about the Nintendo Switch today. Now, it's no surprise at this point, I think that we're at the end of the console's life cycle. It's been hinted in many different ways that we're going to talk about here in the video. Um, but one of those ways is we've got it directly from a third-party developer, or I guess a third-party programmer, I should say, that has worked on the recent Pokemon game, and they threw this leak out there that basically talked about this is going to be the name of the DLC, which they got 100% right by name, and mentioned what the third legendary Pokemon was going to be, which was a big turtle, which it is. They show off a big blue turtle in the DLC, and everything. And then one of the things that it mentioned, and I don't have it exactly in front of me to verify, but it mentioned something about patchwork for the next model Switch. And that was something that kind of got people a little bit, head tilted, kind of thinking, well, why would you need to do that? Because you have the Switch and the Switch OLED. You're probably, doing the absolute best that you can with it. And it didn't make it seem like they were talking about just patching it up to it's going to run better. That could easily have been what they were implying. But it also starts to make sense if you think about the fact that we have nothing past Pikmin 4. All the games that came out, except Metroid Prime 4, that was said to come out for the Switch, is coming out. They said Tears of the Kingdom, here it is. It's coming out in a few months. They said Pikmin 4, we saw Pikmin 4. They said Advance Wars, we got Advance Wars. And we really don't have anything going on past the summer, and that could easily be because they're stocking up games to give us another great launch window like what they did with the Switch. Now, of course, time will only tell. I do kind of feel like Nintendo is the kind of company that gives us 6 months, and usually 6 months, right? Like when we get the the September Direct, they're talking about November, December, January, February, March, and maybe even April. Sometimes they even hint at something a little bit further in advance. So when we get a Direct in February, March, April, May, June, July, and August, to again hold us over until maybe August or September where they give us the next Direct, we have nothing past July. Now, and it just doesn't really seem like their focus is on a whole lot. Like, yeah, they gave us the Game Boy and the Game Boy Advance, but we already kind of knew about that. That was a very poorly kept secret. And it's great that they gave us that, but this is just me as a selection kind of light. Like, they're trying to hold out for a next-gen console to give us everything. Like, hey, here's 50 more Game Boy Advance and Game Boy games. Maybe 25 each or something. You give us like a real good handful of, hey, if you buy this new system, the app is going to really be overhauled with a bunch of games and performance boosts. And I don't know how much performance boost you can give a Game Boy game, but I'm just saying that, give us something. And if you think about, they kind of also did the same thing with the Wii. Well, the Wii U also just had a light library altogether. But still, all the games that they could have done, like, hey, Mario Odyssey could have been a Wii U game, and it probably would have helped it sell a lot. Luigi's Mansion 3 could have been a Wii U game, easy. But a lot of these games got pushed over to the next-gen hardware because they knew it was coming, and they wanted to make sure they had a good, solid lineup to talk about. ARMS could have easily have been on the Wii U. So I wouldn't be surprised if we have something around the corner coming. Maybe July. Maybe right after Pikmin 4 drops. They're just like, hey, we're around E3 season. Let's talk about this next-gen system. It's usually never revealed, but I'm just saying that if we do have an E3 presentation that talks about the next 6 months out, and there's really not a whole lot there because we know that Nintendo is skipping, Well, then that just leaves us with August or September, where they might then talk about it for a March release next year when the Switch turns 7. That seems fair because at that point we have a 7-year-old system. Nintendo said that they were going to have a longer than usual life cycle, and for me, the typical console life cycle is about 5 to 6 years. I would love it to go for much longer, but the only way that I can think of that they can continue to extend this life cycle is if there's maybe a new Nintendo Switch. Something that is basically the exact same thing as the Switch with some quality of life improvements and a better processor to run games. Kind of like what they did with the new Nintendo 3DS, how Smash Brothers could run on the 3DS, but it loads slow and it's not exactly the best performing one. But if you play it on the new Nintendo 3DS, it works so much better. And the same thing with Hyrule Warriors on the 3DS. The new Nintendo 3DS version of it plays so much better. So that's just an example of what I'm talking about. Where maybe we could start to see, these games get these patches that come through that make them run much better. And as a result, they're able to load and do all kinds of different tricks or whatever to load stuff in the background. So what you're looking at in the foreground it looks much better and much more crisp. So people, Nintendo, they're masters of that stuff. I talked before about how they did that with Super Mario Land 2 and how they made it look so much better compared to Super Mario Land 1. Just because they like to take the technology and go vertical with it, They like to basically figure out how to stack on top of stuff. Look at what they're doing with Tears of the Kingdom, as an example. But I digress. What do you guys think about this? Do you think that the idea that we don't have anything past Pikmin, and they're not really talking about, we're going to go to E3 and show off all these games, feels like they're holding on to stuff. It feels like they're holding on to these games. Like, yeah, we could show you the next 2D Mario game, we could show you the next Donkey Kong game, but we want to hold out until we have a better console to entice you, and have our developers just continue to work on these games so they look and run the best they can. So when they show them off, as I imagine Metroid Prime 4 will look phenomenal, because if we got a game that looks as good as Metroid Prime Remastered on the Switch, imagine what they could do with a Metroid Prime 4 brand new game using the existing engine but with better, more capable hardware. Metroid Prime 4 could look phenomenal, and that's why they might be holding out. And then one of the last games that we get is a digital version of Metroid Prime 2 and 3 to round out the trilogy. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But I do think that Metroid Prime 4 is definitely going to come now. After all, the sales of Metroid Prime have proven that Metroid does sell Nintendo, right? It sells, so we want to definitely release that, right? But at this point, who knows? I think that my prediction that Metroid Prime 4 is going to be a next-gen console is going to most likely come true, because we still have no information on it. Not a single cinematic trailer or anything. But that's another argument for another day. What do you guys think about the idea of a next-generation Switch coming? Does it seem to make sense with the fact that we don't have any games coming past Pikmin 4 that have been announced as of yet? Time might change that. And the idea that we have people that are directly from the factory that are talking about the components for this and that and the other, and how the original one's gonna be discontinued, like they're wanting to free up, they wanted to free up factory space for new components and new processors and stuff. What do you guys think? Or is this all just stuff where it's probably just going to be like another Switch OLED? I don't know. Time will tell, right? But that's all it's going to be for me. I'm not going to keep you too much longer. I appreciate you watching if you did like this far. Otherwise, have a good day. I probably won't be doing any more videos until next week. Give me some time to flesh out the ideas that I do have for future videos. But if you also have an idea for future videos, of course, feel free to leave those down below also. And I'll see you next time, guys. Have a good one.